Once again, the DragonCon Theater and Performing Arts Lovers unofficial group meets for one of our monthly gatherings of fans of all things performative. We are very lucky to be joined today by two lovely guests. There was a third guest who was going to be with us, but unfortunately they got a job with money, so I cannot fault them for that. So spoiler alert, there's no paying in this gig. Like a lot of community theater. I am your host and head ringleader of this group, Gary Mitchell. I am joined as always by the lovely Sarah Rose. And then I will allow our guests to introduce themselves, starting with Sorsha.
Hello, I am Sorsha. I am a professional dancer and have been dancing for a little over 20 years.
Nice. And Tim.
Hi.
Tim Millard.
My name is Tim Millard, and I am an actor based in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been acting now for, close to just under 10 years.
Wow.
I know.
Nice. All right. And where might people have seen either of you, Sorsha?
Oh, let's see. Possibly on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely in the Atlanta, Marietta, Smyrna area, and as of recently, Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, nice. Wilmington's a good area.
It is. I like it a lot.
Indeed. And how about you, Tim, sir?
Well, I joke as long as nobody sees me on the wall at the post office, everything is good. A little dad humor there. But people can see me around Atlanta performing on stage, most recently at Roll Call Theater in Atlanta. And also I do a lot of sketch comedy on YouTube. And then when the acting work comes up, hopefully on a stage or screen near you.
Nice. And so our topic today is theater. It's more than just musicals, which is an argument I've had more times than I like to think about. There is much more to it. I mean, as much as we love our singing and dancing, there is a lot more going on than just musicals where there is singing and dancing. But Sorsha, you're here for dancing.
Yes.
So I'm gonna keep picking on you to start. Tell us, when did you get the dancing bug and what made you go and stick with it?
Well, you guys are theater people, and I feel like I'm going to be shamed for this answer. When I was 3, my parents took me to see Cats at the Fox Theater in Atlanta.
Nice.
Nothing wrong with Cats.
No shame here.
I was sold on dancing. I was sold on musical theater. It was a pivotal moment of, mommy, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I started, I think, when I was 4.5 or 5, and I never stopped.
Cool. And how about you, Tim? When did you get bit?
Well, I got bit as a child as well. I forget exactly how old I was, but I remember like one of the earliest movies I can remember watching was Ernest Goes to Camp. And it was for me, it's just such a funny, goofy movie. And I thought, hey, that's funny. I wonder if I could do that. And so I did it, like growing up, going through high school. Then my career took a little detour. I went into the world of journalism for about 20 years. And then a few years ago, decided that I wanted to get back into acting because it's something I've always loved. And here I am still doing it.
That's cool. And I love that it was Ernest Goes to Camp, because Jim Varney is one of those guys as a performer that there are people who know how talented he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people who just think he's earnest. And it's amazing if you can just find some of the stuff he's done as a performer.
He's done Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a meme that floats around every now and then of pictures of him doing various expressions of emotions. And then I saw a picture from him like in his Juilliard time where he had his hair kind of in a pompadour bit and he had this long dangly earring. And I was just like, oh my God, is Ernest hot?
You know what I mean, Mark?
That's
cool.
Yeah. So And I guess the second part of that question again, and I'll stick with you, Tim, this time and bounce back to Sorsha, is what makes you stick with it? Because as we kind of mentioned earlier, it's not the money. I mean, the money's nice, but it's not.
Yeah, making that, as I joke, making that improv money, that acting money. Oh yeah, I gotta get myself a double cheeseburger. Oh, fries. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Anything you want on the dollar menu, baby, it's yours.
That's right. But what for me, what keeps me in it, what just drives me, is the fact that I really love what I do, and it's something that I've wanted to do for the longest time, ever since I was a kid. And like I said, I took my career detour into journalism, and while I was good at it, I just felt like I was depriving myself of something that I always wanted to do, that for some reason I had this notion in my head, oh, I can't do it because ABC and everything like that. And then when I made that decision to get back into doing it, and I realized, this feels like home to me, I don't ever want to not do it again. So that's what drives me, is that I truly, absolutely love this.
And how about you, Sorsha?
It's a very similar answer. It's I got exposed to performance and being on stage at a very young age. I did competition dance. I got very used to being on stage, and it was okay, this is comfortable. I rarely got stage fright. One time, tap solo, 14 years old, traumatized.
Yeah.
I took a break from performing, not by choice. I did some plays around Atlanta. I did stuff with Center Stage North and all that good stuff, but I wasn't dancing aside from doing the concept videos in my garage. And I was like, I miss being on stage. I miss performing. It was that drive to keep finding the performance opportunities, because I love what I do, and I like to share that love with people. I like to show people this is what I do, and I hope you take something away from it. I hope you feel something, or if you don't, you got to watch a pretty dance.
There you go.
As a former dancer, I totally agree with you. Something about sharing it with people and expression through movement is just, it's totally different than even like singing. Also a singer, but it's just completely different.
Dance is my favorite language.
And how would you describe your dance to people? Because there's a multitude. There's your tap, there's your ballet, there's your jazz ballet. There's very much as many styles of music there are as many as dance. So what would you describe yours as? And if someone was like, oh, curious about dance, should they look at?
Well, my favorite thing to tell people is, if you name it, I can probably do it. I am trained in just about every genre. What I do now is more of a contemporary jazz fusion, and I do some cabaret work on the side. We'll go into stuff about that later, but what I would say for people that have an interest in it, look for class. Look at videos, find what speaks to you, because not everybody is going to relate to ballet movement. Not everybody is going to want to tap. Look at stuff online, find, oh, I like this genre. And from there, go see if you can find a class. Anybody can start at any age. I've taught 3-year-olds all the way up to people in their 50s.
Okay. And Tim, we know you're here mainly as how would you describe what you do to people? Or what you do to people?
Sounds like an interrogation now. No, I would describe what I do as a car is honking outside. Hopefully you can't hear that. I think it's an alarm. Hopefully it's not mine. What I would say to people is, like, what I do improv acting, improvisation. So I jokingly refer to it as the make 'em ups, because in improv, everything that you're doing it's made up on the spot. You may have a suggestion or something like that to help guide your scene, help influence what you do, but everything that you do on stage is just, it's all completely made up. But there is a method to the madness. So I think the too long didn't read version would be, I'm someone who goes on stage or in front of a camera, and I make up stuff off the top of my head that I hope people enjoy.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I think the two magic words that everybody going in the improv needs to get from the ground up is yes and.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So explain that to people.
So the concept of yes and is that you are agreeing with what your scene partner is doing. So let's say that I'm in a scene with you, Sarah, and you say to me, "Hey, let's build a soapbox derby racer," and then I'd say, "Yes." And let's enter it in the big soapbox derby racing competition this weekend. Yes. And let's get first place so we can show those bullies what for. Yes. And then we're going to get the win class president because we're so fast. And it's yes. And is the idea of like building on your scene partner suggestion and just making it awesome. And then throwing your own little thing on it, and you just keep building up and up and up. It's like this big circle of support,
right? And not negating or trying to negate what they're doing.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Which is
Definitely.
a killer in improv, from what I've seen.
It is definitely a killer. It is something that I've seen. It is something that I know when I first started out in improv, and I was learning that was something that I was stumbling over, and because I think, from my experience, improv was like a mind change for me, from going from, I'm doubting what I want to say, I'm doubting what I want to do, and then just accepting that, whatever you do out there is going to be great, because your scene partner is going to be out there to support you and make you look great, and you likewise are going to return the favor to your scene partner. So it's like trusting your instinct and just going out there and doing it, because what the hell,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Sorsha, what would you say is one of the core components for someone coming into dance, or for your performances?
For me, it's a couple of things: technique and confidence. Says the person that has the confidence of a fruit fly. I fake it really well on stage.
That's part of the performance aspect of it, though, is really, fake it till you believe it. And, that's one thing, like, I'm somebody who has huge stage fright. That's why you don't normally catch me up on stage, is because good old brain says, scared, scared, scared. But
Brain says no.
yes. But when you're dealing with that, I definitely think I agree with you. It's faking it, and then eventually you're gonna believe it. The audience is gonna believe it.
The irony is that my confidence on stage is great. It's in my personal life that I'm like, I'm not here.
Yeah, and I sense that from both of you. Is like, once you're on stage, and this is the same thing for me, I'm completely a wreck until I'm on there. And then it's just like, I'm not there anymore. And as I say, and then when I get off, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? But yeah, there is something about that stage fright. But then once you're on there, it's like, it's not real life. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to say, what the other person's going to say. That's one of the reasons I fell into acting in high school, is the whole of, I know what to say next, which you don't get that, Tim.
No,
you don't get that safety net at all.
You don't get to be on stage doing improv and going, hold on one sec, let me check my script. I'll have the tuna salad. So when we talk about like that anxiety, if you will, of like, going before you go out on stage, no matter what you're doing on stage. That certainly also applies in improv. I know that there are some times where, like, I'm about to do a show, I'm about to start a scene, and for like the 3-5 seconds from the blackout to when the lights come up, sometimes I'm just in my mind going like, oh my god, what I gotta do, and then like everything just kind of like stops for me, and I just go, I'm just gonna do something out here. Maybe I'm just gonna like do this motion or something like that. But I'm going to do something, and let's just see what happens, because I know that whoever's out there on stage with me is going to take care of me, and vice versa.
Definitely. Yeah. I guess you're this way for me.
Yeah.
That's him for me. Hi.
So the question I will pose to you both next, and Tim,
yeah,
what would you say makes your performance an aspect of theater?
Well, what makes improv an aspect of theater is that improv doesn't have to be funny. This is something that I learned early on when I first started studying improv down in Florida. I had an instructor who told me, don't go out there to be funny. Just go out there and do good improv, and the humor will come naturally. And I've also done improvised scenes where the subject matter is very serious. The dialogue that we were speaking was very serious, to the point that it felt like you could drop a needle in the theater and you would hear it, because everyone was just like, oh my goodness. And then, occasionally getting like the or the aw out of it. To me, like, number one, wow, what a thrill to have that emotional response from the audience. But two, it's not just about going out there and getting a laugh. The laughs are going to happen because that's just how it is. It's about going out there with an idea and just seeing how you and the other people in the scene can make it grow and blossom. Whether it's funny, whether it's serious, it's still improv, and it's just as a legitimate form of theater as any other performance out there, spoken or not.
Okay. And how about you, Sorsha?
Okay. So for me, obviously we see like the golden age musicals where you've got the dancers doing the kick line in the background. What I do cabaret stuff, which is directly has roots in theater, with the comedy and the acting and occasionally the singing, as well as the dancing. But for me, what I do in terms of my work and the work that I do with other choreographers is we tell stories. I feel like that's something that people forget about with dance is, it can tell a story in 2 minutes. It can tell a story in 10 minutes. Currently, I'm getting ready to do a performance this weekend for the Wilmington Dance Festival, and a very dear friend of mine choreographed a piece about cycling through negative experiences in relationships. 4 minutes long, tells a whole story from start to finish. So, and I'm doing an Alice in Wonderland piece, and dance can go one of two ways. It can be just purely entertainment, or it can be a theatrical storytelling experience. And that's kind of where my stuff is rooted, is in that theatrical side.
And I absolutely agree on the dance. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Red Shoes. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but I mean, there's like an over 10-minute dance sequence, and it quite literally tells the story without any words. And it's done in a movie, but that is how dance is. And it's not just ballet. It can be any kind of dance. And that's just something people don't understand about performance in general. Like,
you don't
it
have
doesn't
to speak to tell the story.
exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's some amazing pieces out there, completely silent, with dance that
mhm,
I've seen that will just bring you to tears.
Mhm.
mhm. That
Uh,
being one of them. And
Mhm.
I'm not in that room right now, or I'd turn on the camera. I actually have a print from that dance sequence hanging over my bed in my bedroom right now
I love
because
mhm,
that.
it's my favorite thing. It makes me every time I watch it, it makes me feel.
mhm. Yeah, and one of my other favorites, it's on Vimeo. There's a guy who did a dance set to Hosier's "Take Me to Church."
Oh wow.
Yep.
It's breathtaking watching this guy move through that space and the
Okay.
story he tells. It's stunning. If you have not seen it, I recommend you find it. I'll see if I can find it and post a link. But
Definitely.
definitely.
The
Say no.
same dancer did a video to the Hosier song Movement.
Mm.
So lovely.
There we go. Sergey, I believe his name is.
Sergey Polunin.
Yes, yes. Okay, found it. I'll post a link in just a minute. Uh, Sorry about that live. And there's that live thing. It's like, oh, I should have had that found beforehand, but you just made
Dramatic.
me remember it. So yeah,
Dramatic pause.
there we go. Um, so I'm going to stick with you, Sorsha, and move on to our next question, which is, what are some of the most common misperceptions about dance?
There's a couple. One, to be a dancer, you have to be skinny. That's not true. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Um, People believe that you have to have danced your entire life to perform. Also not true.
Mhm.
And my personal favorite, you can't be a dancer and be tattooed.
Ah,
Yeah.
I have
yeah.
several.
Hmm. Yeah, because I know that misconception, especially about the you've got to start when you're 3, especially comes from like ballet, which
Hmm.
there is
Which
some
has,
merit to starting at that age, but you don't know what you're doing. You're 3 years old. You
Yeah.
can't say
there's some
stop.
merit to it, but you also have to think longevity. It's
Mhm.
more damaging to your body to, I mean, I had injuries
Uh-huh.
when I was 16.
Mm.
You
Well,
get more,
and that's the thing about ballet. Go ahead.
you get more long-term damage, and you also run the risk of this thing giving you
Mhm.
burnout, this thing telling you it's time to stop. I went through that very briefly. Turned out I was just in a really toxic dance environment
Mm.
Mhm.
where I was up with my mom at 3 o'clock in the morning, sobbing, I don't want to dance anymore. And my mom went,
Mm.
then we have to find you someplace else to dance because this is your passion.
Mhm.
It's not what you're doing, it's where you're doing it.
Yeah.
And and
Oh,
that's
go
the
ahead.
thing about ballet. I was the 3-year-old dancer. I we had a ballet company, a Russian ballet master. I mean, like full blown, and I loved it. I can say nothing wrong except the guy didn't know how to budget. Okay.
Does anybody?
We
Yeah,
do not
but
budget in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
exactly, that was the problem. But anyway, the thing is you start young, specifically for ballet, because you are on a time limit.
Hmm.
And that is why, like, when you see these videos of like some of these older ballet dancers, and people don't understand why those things go viral in the especially in the dance community, it's because you don't see a lot of older dancers. Once somebody is even in their late 20s, that's old for a ballet dancer.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean that they can't dance, and it doesn't even mean they can't be in ballet, but it just means they've probably hit their prime,
Hmm.
Mhm.
um and even surpassed it at that point. So
And that's another really big misconception about dance is that when you hit a certain age, you have to stop.
mhm,
Mhm.
You stop when your body tells you to stop. You stop when it's not your passion anymore. You
right,
can't let outside and outdated sources say, oh, you're 30. It's time to stop dancing.
right. Well, and that's one thing I love about like New York City Ballet, especially. They've started embracing more of their
Hmm.
older ballet professionals, American Ballet Theater to an extent as well. There's more older ballet professionals, and they're giving them, they let them kind of choose when they're going to retire, and then they give them
Hmm.
their last hurrah. And I like that.
I do too.
Okay.
All right, and Tim, I think we addressed one of the big misconceptions that it doesn't have to be funny. What are some other ones that you would throw out there?
Well, definitely that, the number one misconception, in my opinion, is that improv has to be funny, and no, it does not have to be funny. Um, Another misconception that I've heard um, from people in improv is that, especially for people starting out, is that I have to be perfect. This has to be perfect. And no, it absolutely does not have to be perfect. Feel free to go out there and be awkward and stumble around, or maybe you didn't hear someone correctly, or maybe someone said something that you didn't understand and you just react to it in the moment, and suddenly it turns into something just completely different and funny. Quick story on that. This is something that actually happened to me in a show where I was performing. My my scene partner and I, if I remember correctly, we had endowed ourselves in some sort of a romantic relationship, and so my scene partner said, "You are my son," and I'm hearing "son" like SON, like I am your male child, and suddenly this whole thing just went topsy turvy. Where at this point I'm like, let's not do any of these advances here. Oh boy, and,
It's like, what are we in Game of Thrones?
there you go. I felt so awkward because, like, well, you said it. Okay, I'm honoring your suggestion. I'm your son. And the audience loved it. They ate it up. And then afterward, my scene partner said, I meant like sun, SUN, like you're the center of my universe. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that makes much more sense.
Yeah, that makes much more sense in the context of things. And he was like, crap, I ruined that. And I said, no, that was hilarious. You for a loop. And I had so much fun trying to like untangle this mess. So there you go. That's an example that it does not have to be perfect. Another misconception that I've observed is that improv is a young person's game. No, it's not. I say this as a 42-year-old man who does improv, and sometimes I'm at shows with people who are about half my age, and I feel like I'm the living equivalent of the Steve Buscemi meme, walking in going, "How do you do, fellow kid?" But exactly, I'm going to do that one of these days.
You absolutely have to.
Yes.
You put it out into the universe, it must be done.
Yeah, and my response to that would be, I want to see someone tell Colin Mockery to knock it off.
That right there.
The Canadian Prime Minister of improv.
Yes.
But as much as like, improv is a young person's game, absolutely it's not. I'm on a team in Atlanta called AU Guys, and one of my fellow team members is she's a 43-year-old woman married with, I think, 3 kids, and you know what? She's just like, I'm going to go out there and just do some funny stuff because it's what I love to do. I once took a class in Florida with a woman who was in her like late 50s, early 60s, who just was like this, like really timid. And then throughout class, she just started becoming more open to the point where in a scene, she just like blurted out with a bunch of expletives. And we all just went like, yes, do it, Renee, do it. Like, oh, was I supposed to? Like, yes, you were absolutely just, that's beautiful. We love it. So if anyone tells you, oh, you're too old for improv, no, absolutely not. The only time you're too old for improv or any form of, performance art, the only time you're old enough for that is when you're dead. Last I checked, hey, I'm still alive. So
yep.
Might be in the Matrix, but you're alive.
Well, if we're in the Matrix, then wait for Keanu Reeves to wake me up.
All right. As long as he wakes you up
Or-
before you go, right?
Wow, I wasn't expecting that reference. I like that.
I'm old.
That song's going to be in my head for the rest of the night now. Thanks.
Yeah.
You're welcome. All right. So seeing that actually ties into another question about improv I wanted to ask, and then
Sure.
Sorsha, for start thinking about how for when I get to you, there are skills you can pick up in improv and dance that you can apply to everyday life. Like you said, you were just talking about this lady coming out of her shell, being less timid, learning how to react to situations that change. What would you say to a person as a here's an idea that to try improv dance without being a performer? Just here's why you should just try it and see if you like it.
Well, for improv, I would say if you have no aspiration to be an actor, and that's perfectly fine, improv can still absolutely help you, because from my experience, improv taught me to be a better listener, because you cannot do improv if you're not paying attention to what the other people on stage are doing. So it really trains you to be a better listener. I think improv also trains you to be more willing to go with the flow, to, for lack of a better word, instead of thinking that, oh, everything has to be a certain way, and if I so much as deviate from that plan, everything's going to go wrong. With improv, certainly for me, I think it kind of rewired my brain a little bit, where not suddenly, over time, I eventually just became more willing to just, let things happen, and then just kind of go with it and not really sweat the small stuff. And another thing that I would say about improv for people who don't want to be actors is that, and I've seen this firsthand, is that it helps with anxiety. In fact, there are some classes around here in Atlanta that are essentially improv, but for people with anxiety. And I've seen with people I know who have taken those classes that they feel a lot less anxious and just a lot more relaxed, not worrying about things, or worrying as much, I should say, just like doing it on their own level, and just realizing, hey, you know what? Yeah, things are good. I don't feel I have to worry so much about this. So in short, I would say improv, it will make you a better actor. But if you don't want to be an actor, then you know what? Improv will make you a better person. I firmly believe that, because it certainly did for me.
And how about you, Sorsha? What would you say that dance can bring to someone just outside of performing on a stage?
It's a similar thing with the anxiety as what Tim said. I know a lot of people, myself included, who struggle to articulate all of their thoughts, or to get them out in a way that comes across as it's like reading an email. I'm not attacking you, but you're taking it that I am attacking you. Dance is a wonderful way to get those feelings out. It's a great way to express yourself that's not directly attacking someone. Writing a venomous email that you might accidentally send. I've never done that. I keep it all in a Google Doc, guys. But also it's really good for physical awareness, spatial awareness, general coordination, multitasking, and it will make you strong. If you're interested in strength training, but you're like, I don't want to lift weights, using your own body mass is just as good.
Definitely.
Yeah, some of us have a little more mass than others. But it's still, but yeah, no, there is, and that is something I do want to say, you touched on it before. Weight is not a barrier to dance. And it should not be. Don't let And also, I guess improv as well. There may be people who feel self-conscious going on stage because they're not a stick, and it's for everybody. Like theater in general, but it's even dance, improv are both open to and for everyone. Doesn't matter your shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say the dance community is still slowly grasping the concept of any shape is welcome.
Mhm.
I know for me specifically, because I used to teach teenagers, and they were all very, very self-conscious because they were at that age.
Mhm.
The last dance I did for them was about body image. And that was what they wanted. They were like, we want to do something that communicates a message. And I said, I got you.
Mhm.
This is what we're going to do. I personally feel like the dance community still has a long ways to go. We still have a lot of stigmas to break. But I try to accommodate to every body shape
Mhm.
because we're all people. The number on the scale, how a person looks, that doesn't change the fact that we are all flesh and blood humans.
Mhm.
And to an extent, like as somebody who is differently abled, in some ways, I can tell you, like, you don't even have to, necessarily be able to jump around and do things like that. It is okay to express yourself, you know, either through acting or through dancing, if you're differently abled. And that's something that's like so many people just don't understand, because unfortunately a lot of mainstream, which is why it's great to have like local comedy and improv and local dance, because you see more of this is what real people are like, not
You see real life.
necessarily
Yeah.
what people on the screen or on Kennedy Center look like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Real
Yeah,
people don't look
indeed.
like that.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Those people are automatons. I stand by it. But yes, and again, also I mean, I try to think of some. There's a series of photographs, I believe it was Leonard Nimoy took, of various plus size women in dancing and posing, and it's gorgeous.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, we got serious there for a second.
Yeah.
Well, good to have those serious discussions.
Indeed,
Uh,
it happens from time to time. So our next question, we've sort of covered a little bit, but I'd like to elaborate a little more then, because it's if somebody wants to become a dancer, we kind of talked about it, just find a local class, that sort of thing. And you do not have to wait. I mean, we covered this with both of you that, you can be 30, 40, 50 and still step into these worlds. So let's kind of look at it from two different directions. If you're someone who's older and wants to get into this, what would you recommend? And if you're a parent and your kid wants to get into this, save money. And and what advice would you give to what would you give to the older novice, and to parents, what advice would you give? Tim.
Well, for the older novice, I would say if you want to get involved in improv, best way to do it is to find someone who's teaching it and take a class. I got started in improv because a friend of mine it was one of my coworkers at a TV station where I was working in Florida at the time. It told me, you're funny, you're quick-witted, you're quick with the words. There's this theater down the street that's doing a free intro to improv class soon. You should check it out. I went, checked it out, and 2 hours later, when the class was done, I was like, I feel so at home here on stage. I went to the instructor and more or less pulled out my debit card and said, "Shut up and take my money."
Mm-hmm.
So me, at the age of, I believe I was 35, that's how I started. Just started with taking a class. That to me is the best way to get involved with improv at at any age. And there are so many places, especially in Atlanta, where you can learn improv. So everyone's got their own spin on improv. It's worth it to learn from as many people as possible. You really have a choice in Atlanta, and especially in a lot of other larger cities, you know, who you want to learn from. Now, for a parent of a child who maybe the parent's thinking, hey, you know, my child could be funny, or, you know, they've got some sort of acting in them. What should I do? I would say look for a program that maybe is more like a more child-oriented. I know some theaters offer a kids summer camp where basically for a week they get to have fun, learn the basic principles of improv, and, you know, walk away better kids. So parents, I would say, look for a child oriented class, because I'm sure you could put them in an adult class, but what if, you know, an adult says something that maybe young ears shouldn't hear? And, you know, you don't want to hear that in an improv class. They should hear about that the same place I heard about those words, in public school.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, there's so many different places, different people from whom you can learn improv. It's really just a matter of find someone, take a class, and see if it's for you. If it is for you, great. You're on a path to something wonderful. If it's not for you, hey, there's still some lessons you can take away from that. And you know what? Hey, you had some fun in the process anyway.
And maybe if you weren't careful, you might have learned something.
Lesson of the day.
How about you, Sorsha?
So for older novice, I would say something pretty similar to what Tim said. Atlanta, North Carolina, pretty much everywhere across the nation, there is a healthy breadth of dance teachers that are willing to work with older, beginners, all that good stuff. My big thing is don't settle on one style until you've tried that style. Try as many different things as you can try until you find what works for you. People have come in to take contemporary from me, and they have told me this is not what I thought it was going to be, but I loved it. And I've gotten people very quietly going, thank you for class, and just jetting out of the room. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to see them again. But that's okay. I'm never offended by stuff like that, because in my head, I'm like, okay, my genre isn't for you, and that's fine. But no, for older novice, I would say find somewhere, take as many styles as you want, take a couple at the same time, find what works for you. For parents, first and foremost, support your child's passion. You got to support the little tyke. Do your research. Research dance studios. Research community dance classes. Make sure that you're doing right by your child. You're not putting them in an environment that's going to hurt them emotionally, physically, or otherwise. Maybe look for a short-term program to see how things go. I know with most of the recreational stuff, it's very non-committal. You don't have to sign any contracts. Don't put your kid into a high-end ballet company or a competitive team if they've never danced before, because they might get a week in and go, I hate this. And then you're stuck and you're paying a lot of money. Just support, do your research, and make sure that you're putting your kid in something that makes them happy.
Yeah, and I want to say this because this is one of my personal bugaboos. Make sure it's your kid's passion and not yours.
Exactly.
You know, we've all seen the damage that's caused by people forcing their kids into I wanted to be a dancer, so now you're going to be a dancer, or I wanted to be whatever, you know, the football playing actor, whatever, you know, and I mean, you'll mess your kid up for life.
Yeah.
The movie Center Stage is a great example of that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is also accept it. If your kid says, "I don't want to do this anymore,"
Mhm.
even if they loved it, now you obviously be a perceptive parent. Is it
Mhm.
that you don't want to do it anymore, or is it that you don't like the people you're doing it with,
Right.
or
Yeah.
that's teaching you anymore? But then again, don't say, "Well, you're really good at this, so I'm going to force you into continuing to do this," because that's not fair to them either. And it breaks the love of it. And that's a big thing for me. Um you know, I had a very supportive mom who allowed me, and I did everything under the sun, from dance to singing to acting. I did ice skating for a while. And you know what? None of them were my forever passion. Now, keep in mind, still love theater. I still love singing. I don't have opportunities in Bodunk, Iowa, so much to do that stuff anymore. But none of them. Eventually, I said, "I don't want to do this anymore," and she said, "Okay," and she let me explore other things, and that's part of being a supportive parent.
And I think just in the artistic community at large, when your child is involved, you have to really think, are once you get down to a certain path and you've invested the time and the money and taking your kids to class and rehearsals, if they turn around and say, "I don't want to do this anymore," yes, be perceptive, but even in your own perception, you have to think, am I doing this for you, or am I continuing to do this because of me?
Yeah.
My mom was very supportive, but she also knew, she knows me well enough. When I said I don't want to do this anymore, she's like, "That's not true.
Hmm.
You still love this. I can tell you still love this just by watching you dance. It's just you're in a bad environment."
Yeah.
Hmm.
She was right.
Mm-hmm.
Mommy was
Yeah.
right.
Mhm. So basically, we're saying is be a parent.
Yes.
Yeah. Be a parent. Be a good parent. Do what's in the best interest for your child, not for you. It's not
Mhm.
like the improv community has necessarily the improv parent stigma. I have yet to see an improv parent, but
Mhm.
at the same point, and Sorsha made a good point about this that I want to piggyback off of, is that there's just like with dance, there's a lot of different ways to do improv. At the risk of
Mhm.
too inside baseball here, there are some who follow the Keith Johnstone narrative theory of improv. There are others who follow the more games-based theory of Second City and UCB and other Chicago and Los Angeles based improv formats. And I've
Mhm.
taken classes in both of those and then some. And for me, I don't follow any one particular theory or method any more than the other. I take what works for me. I try
Mhm.
everything, and when I find what works for me, I run with it. And one other thing that just popped into my head, if you're a parent and you think, hey, my kid has some interest in improv, what should I do? One other thing that you can do is, if your child's school has like a drama department or something like that, reach
Mhm.
out to the teacher. I know a lot of drama teachers who they know improv instructors, or sometimes they also are improv instructors on the side. So, reach out to your child's drama teacher if your school has one, and use that as a resource.
Yeah, indeed. There are resources out there, and thankfully, in this modern era of the internet, it's a lot easier to find them.
Definitely.
Yeah, when I was growing up as a kid in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, with 1 year of drama, it was harder to find. So I am jealous of all you dumb you kids today. Uh,
That's nice.
but yeah, yeah, yeah. And as I showed earlier, I like my improv with math.
Nice.
Um,
I was told math would not be involved.
no, we lied.
Sorry.
Mhm.
I was told this was a theater discussion.
Save versus math. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. We're gonna give everybody in the comments. Thank you, everybody in the comments who has been watching, for joining us to come up with throw any questions you have in the chat, and we will try to get to them. And while we let those questions brew up, what are your current projects, Sorsha? What is coming up from you? Where can people find you if they want to support your work, or just see some cool dance? Where would they go?
So I have a YouTube channel. It is SRSHMSTRS, Sorsha Masters without vowels. If there's anybody listening that's local to Raleigh, Durham, or wants to trek all the way to Wilmington from Charlotte, I will be dancing in the Wilmington Dance Festival this coming Friday at 7:30 p.m. at the UNCW Keenan Auditorium. And all the things. My sweetie and I are starting a cabaret, which we're hoping to launch and get going right around my birthday this year. It's going to be contemporary and jazz and Greek mythology.
Nice.
So be on the lookout for Persephone's Pandemonium Cabaret coming late 2023.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, and Tim.
So you can, this isn't necessarily improv related, but I use my improv skills for it. I am part of a sketch comedy team in Atlanta called Sketchworks Comedy, and I'm part of their weekly digital series News Break, where we get to make fun of news headlines of happening around the world. It's a great opportunity for me to use my master's degree in journalism. Yes.
Nice.
We are on YouTube at Sketchworks Comedy and also sketchworkscomedy.com. As for my improv work, my team, AU Guys, we're on Instagram, AU Guys Gold, the letter A, the letter U, Guys Gold. We just finished up a great run of shows at Roll Call Theater in Atlanta at Pond City Market, our treasure hunt format where we go on a made-up treasure hunt. We just wrapped that up, and we're going to be bringing in a new format in about a month. Has yet to be scheduled, but we're really excited about this format. It is essentially made-up movies, where
awesome.
We're going to see what crazy twisted movie ideas we can come up with, what the audience loves, and then whatever gets the most votes, we will act out that movie improv style. So if you've ever wanted to see, I guess if you've ever wanted to see like Titanic meets Roadhouse, hey, you know what? That's something we could do.
Now I want to see that specifically.
I'm really into this.
Yes, definitely.
No, there's enough space for us on this piece of wood as Rose just karate kicks Jack off into the water.
Now there's not.
But yeah,
there's ice, and there's time not to have ice.
That's cold. Yes, that was a pun there too. I apologize, but I pop up around Atlanta when I can with AU Guys and other great performers. So follow my Instagram at the Tim Millard, and that's where I'm always promoting my stuff.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for coming on. We just have the comment, which I threw up there, of Rose House, which I love that. I want to once again throw out to our watchers, if you're watching us live, thank you for coming and spending a Monday evening with us. If you're watching this in the future, this will be up here on the YouTube for your enjoyment, and I thank you for coming in. Please remember to comment, like, subscribe. Unless you're a werewolf, then you're going to like and subscribe. Thank you. And Sarah, what is up next?
Put me on the spot. Up next is going to be our Phantom of the Opera fan panel. Totally different than this. One of the greatest musicals of all time, in my humble opinion. We're still kind of in the planning stage right now. I have it penciled in for Friday the 21st, but that's not official yet. Yes, Phantom. Woo! But we will be getting that ready to go very soon. That is going to be our next panel. We do hope to do more of these panels featuring different types of performance. I know that John, who was our magician friend who was not able to be here, he wants to be on one of these panels as well. So do watch out for that. And if you have panel ideas, feel free to put them in the comments. Join our Facebook. We're always looking for great ideas.
Absolutely. Please join the Facebook group if you haven't. Always throw suggestions there. We will be posting links there. We try to generate content a lot. I throw up a lot of memes. You're
Ooh.
welcome. And
A lot of musical
yes,
stuff for me.
but Tim, Sorsha, thank you so much for coming. I am greatly indebted to you both. You're both welcome to come back anytime.
Definitely.
Well,
And
thank you for having us.
Thank
yes,
you.
very, very, very welcome. So unless the two of you have any final thoughts, let me put the improv guy on the spot. He never has that feeling.
Never. I would just quick final thought regarding improv. I'd say do it. Even if, again, if you have no inclination to be an actor, give it a shot. At the very least, I assure you, you're going to have fun. And who knows, maybe the improv bug will bite you and then that'll lead to acting or whatever. But like I said, at the end of the day, go ahead and give it a shot. No matter how young or how old you are, don't think that, oh, I can't do improv because of this. No, you can absolutely do it. I encourage you to do it. If you need someone to give you encouragement to do it, hit me up. I will be your one-person hype man. I will give you that encouragement. Don't deprive yourself of something that's absolutely joyful, whatever that is. If it's improv, if it's dance, if it's twirling around until you're dizzy, just do it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of twirling around until you're dizzy, Sorsha.
Get involved in local art. It doesn't matter what it is, dance, acting, improv, singing, painting, just go out, experience your community's art, because I promise you there's good art wherever you live. I promise you that.
Even in Bodunk, Iowa.
Even in Bodunk, Iowa.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so
create it.
Yes. Yep. If you can't find good art, make your own.
That right there.
So for now, once again, thank you both. Thank everyone at home. And until next time.
See ya. Bye.